There are people whose entire lives are quietly collapsing because they keep delaying what matters. One phone call avoided, one application postponed, one assignment delayed, one conversation pushed to tomorrow. And slowly their future begins shrinking. What is terrifying is that procrastination rarely feels dangerous in the moment. It feels harmless. You tell yourself, I will start later. I work better under pressure. I just need to relax first. But that tiny moment of avoidance is training your brain, conditioning it, rewiring it. Every time you escape discomfort, your mind learns avoidance equals relief. And eventually you stop controlling the habit. The habit controls you. Imagine a student sitting down to write an important paper. The moment they open the document, they feel tension. What if it is bad? What if they fail? What if they cannot do it perfectly? That discomfort appears instantly. And then something happens, their brain searches for escape. Suddenly, checking Instagram feels urgent. Cleaning the desk feels important. Watching one video feels reasonable. The brain moves toward relief automatically. Not because the distractions matter, but because they remove discomfort. For a few minutes, the anxiety disappears, and the brain rewards the escape. This is how procrastination becomes conditioning. The relief after avoidance acts like a drug. The brain remembers it. So the next time discomfort appears, escape becomes even more automatic. Over years, people can become trained to run from almost anything difficult. Difficult conversations, big opportunities, creative work, exercise, important decisions. Their mind becomes addicted to immediate comfort, and comfort slowly destroys ambition. One of the most dangerous forms of procrastination is perfectionism. People think perfectionists work harder, but often they delay starting completely, because starting means risking imperfection. So instead of producing imperfect work, they postpone action again and again. A writer spends weeks planning but never writes. An entrepreneur keeps researching but never launches. A student waits for the perfect mood to study. They believe preparation is progress, but deep down they are avoiding judgment, avoiding failure, avoiding discomfort. And the longer they wait, the more terrifying the task becomes. This is why some people procrastinate for days over tasks that only take 20 minutes. The fear surrounding the task becomes larger than the task itself. Every time you tell yourself, I will do it tonight, and do not, something dangerous happens. Your brain records the failure not consciously, but psychologically. Eventually, your mind stops believing you. You become someone who sets goals but never follows through. Someone who talks about change but delays action. And this destroys self-respect. Because deep down you know when you are avoiding your own life. The pain of procrastination is not just lost time. It is watching yourself betray your potential repeatedly until avoidance becomes identity. The people who escape procrastination understand something powerful. You do not wait for motivation. You move before motivation appears. They train themselves to start while uncomfortable, while uncertain, while afraid. Because action weakens fear. The moment you begin, the mind changes. Resistance starts shrinking. Momentum begins building. And every time you act instead of escape, you reclaim control over yourself. So the next time your brain begs for distraction, pay attention. Because that moment may determine your future. Will you reinforce avoidance, or will you finally become the kind of person who acts despite discomfort? Because your destiny is being shaped by what you do when you do not feel like starting.
Now, there's probably something you've been avoiding. A project, a difficult conversation, an application, a goal you keep promising yourself you will start. And every day you delay it, your mind becomes weaker. Not because you are lazy, but because your brain is being conditioned. Every time you escape discomfort, your mind learns avoidant behavior keeps you safe. And eventually, you don't just procrastinate on work, you procrastinate on your entire future. Imagine a student sitting down to write a paper. The moment they open the document, they feel tension. What if this sounds stupid? What if I fail? This is going to take forever. Instantly, the brain detects discomfort, and within seconds, the escape begins. They check their phone, watch a video, clean their room. Suddenly, everything feels more important than the task itself. Why? Because the brain is trying to eliminate psychological pain. And the terrifying part is this: The moment they avoid the task, they feel relief. That relief becomes a reward, and rewards create habits. So now the brain remembers escaping makes it feel better. This is how procrastination becomes automatic conditioning. Not once but daily, repeated over years. At first the task was small. Maybe it was one email, one workout, one chapter to study. But avoidance changes the brain's perception. Every day, you delay something, your anxiety attaches itself to the task. Now the task feels bigger, heavier, more dangerous. A simple phone call becomes terrifying. A small assignment feels impossible. This is why people stare at tasks for hours without beginning. Their nervous system associates the task with emotional pain. And eventually, people start attacking themselves. I'm lazy. I have no discipline. I never finish anything. But the deeper problem is this. Their brain has been trained to fear starting. One strategy changes everything. Shrink the task until your brain stops resisting it. Instead of saying, I need to finish this entire report, say I will write one sentence. Instead of I need to study for 4 hours, say I will open the notebook. This sounds weak, but psychologically it is powerful. Because motion destroys fear. Once action begins, resistance often weakens. A person who tells themselves to work for just 5 minutes often keeps going far longer. Why? Because starting is the real battlefield, not finishing. Your brain wants to avoid activation energy. Once momentum starts, the mind becomes more cooperative. This is why highly productive people obsess over starting quickly. They understand something dangerous. If you hesitate too long, your emotions will control your behavior. Another hidden cause of procrastination is perfectionism. People delay because they want the result to be flawless. So they wait and wait and wait. But perfectionism is often fear, disguised as high standards. Because if you never fully try, you never risk failure. This traps people for years. Books never written, businesses never started, dreams permanently delayed. The truth is, brutal imperfect action changes lives. Perfect hesitation destroys them. Every day you procrastinate, you strengthen the identity of someone who avoids. But every time you act despite resistance, you build a new identity. Someone who begins, someone who moves, someone who does difficult things before feeling ready. Your future is being shaped right now by what you repeatedly avoid or repeatedly confront. Because the longer you wait, the harder starting becomes. But the moment you take action, even small action, you break the spell.
Someone who says they want to change their life, start a business, get in shape, learn a skill, write a book. But every morning, before their mind even fully wakes up, the world hijacks their attention. Emails, texts, notifications, breaking news, algorithms fighting for their focus before they even fight for themselves. And slowly, their priorities stop belonging to them. Hours disappear solving tiny urgent problems, tiny fires, tiny interruptions, tiny distractions that feel important in the moment, but leave their future untouched. This is one of the most dangerous psychological traps in modern life, because urgency creates the illusion of importance. A person answers messages all day and feels productive, but deep inside, they know they avoided the work that could actually transform their life. The difficult work, the meaningful work, the uncomfortable work. Because building a powerful future requires sustained attention. And sustained attention feels painful to an untrained mind. So the brain escapes toward stimulation, toward novelty, toward instant dopamine. And little by little, people become conditioned to react instead of create, obey instead of build, consume instead of become. Every time you interrupt yourself, you are training your brain. Every notification answered instantly teaches your mind you are not in control. Every compulsive scroll weakens your ability to stay present. A person sits down to work. 5 minutes later, they check their phone. Then another app. Then another video. Then another distraction. Their brain never sinks deep enough to produce anything meaningful. And eventually, their nervous system adapts to chaos. Silence starts feeling uncomfortable. Stillness feels threatening. Deep focus feels almost painful, because the brain has been conditioned to expect constant stimulation. This is how mental weakness is built. Not in one dramatic moment, but through thousands of tiny acts of surrender. Attention works like a muscle. What you repeatedly practice, you become. Practice distraction, and your mind becomes impulsive, restless, scattered, weak under pressure. But practice focus, and something dangerous begins to happen. Your mind sharpens, your discipline strengthens, your tolerance for discomfort grows. While everyone else loses the ability to concentrate, you become capable of things they can no longer do. Long focus, deep thinking, real creation. And that becomes a massive advantage in a distracted world. Most people worship motivation. But motivation is fragile. Emotions change. Energy changes. Mood changes. And if your actions depend on feelings, your future becomes unstable. This is why powerful people build systems, because systems remove emotional negotiation. Imagine two people. One says, "I'll work when I feel inspired." The other has a rule. Every morning, 6 a.m., phone gone, no distractions. 2 hours of deep work, no debate, no excuses, no internal bargaining. Who transforms their life faster? The second person, every single time. Because systems bypass weakness. The decision was already made before emotions could interfere. This is why routines become powerful psychological weapons. They train identity. At first, a person says, "I'm trying to stay focused," but eventually, through repetition, the identity changes. I protect my attention. I finish what I start. I do hard things even when I don't feel like it. And once identity changes, behavior becomes automatic. That is when discipline stops feeling forced and starts becoming who you are. Most people destroy their future quietly. One distracted day at a time. One wasted hour at a time. One postponed dream at a time. They think small actions don't matter. But repetitions is programming. Every day is casting votes for the person you become. 1 hour wasted every day becomes years of lost potential. Years. Imagine what could be built in those hours. Skills, strength, knowledge, freedom, confidence. A completely different life. Success is rarely created through one giant moment. It's built through repeated behavior, repeated focus, repeated discipline, repeated refusal to surrender attention. What you repeatedly do, your brain accepts as identity, and identity becomes destiny. Right now, your habits are programming your mind. Every distraction you obey strengthens weakness. Every moment of focus strengthens control. Most people will spend their entire lives trapped in reaction mode, scrolling, consuming, distracted, mentally exhausted, always busy, but never truly moving forward. But the few people who learn to defend their attention become different, more disciplined, more dangerous, more powerful. Because in a world addicted to distraction, the ability to focus becomes a superpower. And once a person learns to control their attention, they begin to control their future, their actions, their identity, their entire life.
Most people are trapped in the same cycle. They feel inspired. They promise themselves they're going to change. New routine, new goals, new discipline. but days later they disappear back into comfort. Why? Because they built their life on emotion instead of structure. And emotions are unstable. The terrifying truth is this: if you only act when you feel motivated, you will spend most of your life doing nothing important. The human brain constantly searches for immediate comfort, easy pleasure, fast rewards, minimal effort. This is why someone knows they should study but suddenly feels an overwhelming urge to check their phone. Why someone plans to exercise but chooses the couch instead. Why someone says they want success while spending hours escaping into entertainment. Because difficult actions create discomfort first, and the brain wants relief immediately. Imagine someone sitting down to work on a difficult project. Within minutes, they feel tension, mental resistance, doubt, fatigue, and suddenly their brain whispers, "Take a break. Start later. You work better under pressure anyway." This is how people rationalize self-destruction. They confuse emotional comfort with safety. Meanwhile, their future slowly collapses through delay. Motivation creates excitement, but excitement fades quickly. A person watches an inspirational video and feels powerful for one night, makes huge plans. Then reality arrives: fatigue, stress, boredom, difficulty. And suddenly motivation disappears. This is where most people fail, because they built no system, no routine, no structure. So, when emotion fades, action disappears too. But disciplined people understand something dangerous. You must train yourself to act regardless of emotion. Whether tired, whether stressed, whether inspired or not. Because waiting to feel like it is one of the fastest ways to stay average forever. Every repeated action teaches your brain who you are. If you repeatedly procrastinate, your brain learns, "I avoid difficult things." If you repeatedly quit, your brain learns, "I don't finish." But when you repeatedly take action despite resistance, something changes. Identity shifts. A person stops saying, "I'm trying to be disciplined," and becomes, "I am disciplined." This is why small habits matter so much. Making your bed, starting work on time, studying daily, training consistently. Tiny actions repeated daily become psychological evidence, proof of who you are becoming, and eventually discipline becomes automatic. One of the biggest lies people believe is that success belongs to the most talented. But often success belongs to the person who keeps going, the person who continues after boredom, after setbacks, after difficult days. Most people stop when emotions become uncomfortable. Disciplined people continue anyway. That difference compounds for years, and eventually the consistent person becomes unstoppable. Right now, your habits are either building strength or building weakness. Every time you surrender to comfort, you reinforce the identity of someone controlled by emotion. But every time you act despite resistance, you reclaim control over your mind. Most people will stay trapped chasing motivation forever, waiting, delaying, escaping discomfort. But the people who master discipline master themselves. And once someone learns to act regardless of emotion, their entire future changes.
Most people never realize what's actually controlling them. They think they're procrastinating because they're lazy, undisciplined, unmotivated. But underneath procrastination, there's often something much darker. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of looking foolish. Fear that even after trying their hardest, they still won't be enough. So instead of risking emotional pain, they avoid action completely. And over time, avoidance becomes identity. Imagine a student assigned a difficult paper. They sit down to begin, but instantly thoughts appear. What if I'm not smart enough? What if this turns out terrible? What if everyone else does better than me? Their anxiety rises. The task now feels emotionally dangerous, so instead of starting, they escape. They scroll social media, watch videos. Suddenly, cleaning the kitchen feels urgent, anything to avoid the discomfort. And when they escape, they feel temporary relief. That relief becomes psychological reinforcement. The brain learns, avoidance protects me from pain. This is how procrastination becomes deeply conditioned behavior. Not because the task is impossible, but because the brain associates it with emotional threat. And every day the person delays, the fear grows larger. Now the paper doesn't just represent work, it represents guilt, failure, shame, pressure. This is why people freeze. They are no longer avoiding the task itself. They are avoiding the emotions attached to it. One of the most dangerous forms of fear is perfectionism. Perfectionism sounds productive, but often it's fear wearing a disguise. Imagine someone who wants to start a business, but they spend months designing logos instead of launching. Or someone writing a book who rewrites the first chapter endlessly. Or someone afraid to apply for jobs because rejection would hurt their self-image. Perfectionism creates endless delay because if the work is never finished, it can never truly fail. This protects the ego temporarily, but destroys growth long-term. And while perfectionists wait for flawless conditions, time keeps moving. Opportunities disappear. Potential dies unfinished. There's something powerful most people never understand. Confidence is built through exposure, not waiting, not thinking, not preparing forever. Action. A person terrified of public speaking becomes less afraid by speaking repeatedly. A person afraid of failure becomes stronger by surviving failure. A person afraid of rejection becomes resilient by facing rejection. Action retrains the nervous system. Every time you confront fear, your brain learns, this is survivable. But every time you avoid fear, your brain learns, this danger must be avoided. Avoidance strengthens fear. Action weakens it. This is why small, courageous actions matter so much. Even tiny acts of courage begin rewiring identity. Many people are psychologically trapped by their own thoughts. I always mess things up. I'm too behind. I'm not talented enough. The brain absorbs repeated thoughts as identity, and eventually, behavior follows belief. A person who constantly repeats weakness internally begins acting weak externally. This is why controlling internal dialogue matters, because your mind is listening to what you repeatedly tell it. Right now, fear may already be controlling your decisions, the opportunities you avoid, the goals you delay, the life you keep postponing. But understand this clearly, the longer you obey fear, the stronger it becomes. Most people spend their entire lives trapped in avoidance, waiting to feel confident, waiting to feel ready, waiting for fear to disappear. But fear rarely disappears first. Action comes first. And the people who change their lives are usually the ones who learn to move while still afraid.
Every time you break a promise to yourself, something dangerous happens. Not just externally, internally. Your brain starts collecting evidence about who you are. You say you will wake up early. You do not. You say you will study tonight. You delay it. You say you will finally change your life. But days pass and nothing changes. At first, it feels small, but repetition creates identity. And eventually, your mind begins believing, this is who I am. Someone who quits, someone who delays, someone who avoids difficult things. And once identity hardens, behavior follows automatically. Imagine someone who constantly says, I work better under pressure. So they delay every important task until panic arrives. At first, this feels harmless, but over time, their brain becomes conditioned to associate action with last-minute stress. Or imagine someone who repeatedly says, I am just lazy. That phrase seems small. But the brain absorbs repeated labels. And eventually, behavior begins matching the identity, because people naturally act in alignment with what they believe they are. A person who sees themselves as disciplined behaves differently from someone who sees themselves as weak. This is why repeated procrastination becomes psychologically destructive. Every avoided task reinforces self-doubt. Every broken promise weakens self-trust, and slowly, people stop believing they are capable of change. One of the most dangerous habits people develop is excuse-making. I am too tired. I will start next week. I need to feel motivated first. These excuses create temporary emotional comfort, but they also keep people trapped, because excuses shift responsibility away from action. Imagine someone wanting to get in shape, but every night they say, I will start Monday. Weeks pass, months pass, nothing changes. Or someone dreaming of building a business but endlessly researching instead of acting. Or someone wanting to improve their life but constantly blaming circumstances. The longer excuses repeat, the more powerless a person becomes, because eventually they stop believing they control their own behavior. Identity changes through evidence, not wishes, not motivational speeches. Evidence. When a person repeatedly follows through on small actions, the brain notices. Imagine someone deciding, I will wake up immediately when the alarm rings, and doing it daily, or studying for 20 minutes every night consistently, or finishing one difficult task before opening social media. These actions seem small, but psychologically they are rebuilding identity. Each action sends a message. I follow through. I can trust myself. I do difficult things. And slowly a new self-image forms. This is how disciplined people are created. Not instantly, but through repeated proof. Right now, your daily actions are shaping the person you are becoming. Every excuse repeated strengthens weakness. Every disciplined action repeated strengthens power. Most people underestimate how dangerous repeated behavior becomes over years. A distracted person becomes more distracted. An avoidant person becomes more avoidant. But a disciplined person becomes stronger with repetition too. What you repeatedly practice, you become. Most people are waiting for transformation to feel dramatic, but real transformation is quieter than that. It happens every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you act despite resistance, every time you refuse to obey excuses. Because eventually, those actions change identity, and once identity changes, behavior starts changing automatically. The frightening truth is this: you are already becoming someone through your daily habits. The only question is, who are you training yourself to become?
Changing your life is hard, but staying changed is even harder, because old habits don't disappear when you improve yourself. They wait, quietly, for moments when you're tired, stressed, distracted, emotionally weak. And the terrifying part is this: most people don't notice they're slipping backwards until they've already lost momentum completely. Because collapse rarely happens all at once. It happens through tiny compromises repeated daily. Imagine someone who finally built a strong study routine. Every night they studied for 2 hours consistently. They felt focused, disciplined, in control. Then one night they skipped studying. They told themselves, it's just one day. The next night they procrastinated again. Then they started checking social media during study time. Then studying became inconsistent. Weeks later, the entire routine collapsed. This is how people drift backwards psychologically, not through one giant decision, but through repeated small surrendering. Or imagine someone who wakes up early every morning. Then one weekend they sleep in. Soon sleeping late becomes normal again. Old behaviors return faster than people realize, because the brain loves familiar patterns, even destructive ones. Familiarity feels safe. One of the most dangerous thoughts a person can believe is, I'll get serious again later. Monday, next month. After the holidays, after stress goes away. But delay creates more delay. A person misses one workout, then avoids the gym for weeks because they feel guilty. A student falls behind, then avoids studying because facing the work creates anxiety. A person breaks a productive routine, then fully returns to distraction because restarting feels painful. This is how people become trapped in cycles of relapse, because instead of correcting quickly, they surrender completely. Highly disciplined people understand something most people don't. The faster you recover, the less power bad habits gain. Old habits become especially dangerous during stress. When people feel overwhelmed, the brain craves comfort, easy pleasure, escape. This is why people often return to procrastination during difficult periods. Imagine someone stressed from work. Instead of handling important responsibilities, they binge entertainment for hours. Or someone anxious about failure, so they distract themselves instead of taking action. The brain whispers, escape for a little while. But repeated escape slowly destroys self-control, and eventually, avoidance becomes automatic again. This is why self-awareness matters so much. Disciplined people constantly monitor themselves. They notice when distractions increase, when excuses return, when focus weakens, and they correct themselves early, before collapse happens. Many people think discipline becomes permanent once they achieve it, but discipline is fragile. Every day either strengthens it or weakens it. Every repeated action matters, because repetition conditions behavior. The person who repeatedly chooses focus becomes focused. The person who repeatedly chooses escape becomes avoidant. What you repeatedly tolerate, you become. Right now, your old habits are waiting for opportunities to return. One excuse, one delay, one moment of weakness. Most people slowly drift back into distraction because they stop paying attention. They assume progress will maintain itself. But powerful people understand something different. Self-control requires constant protection. The moment you slip, recover quickly. The moment excuses appear, challenge them. Because every day you either strengthen discipline or strengthen the habits trying to destroy your future. And eventually, the side you feed the most becomes who you are.
Most people don't ruin their lives in one dramatic moment. They drift into regret slowly, one distracted day at a time, one postponed goal at a time, one "I'll start tomorrow" at a time. And because the damage happens gradually, they barely notice it. A person tells themselves they still have time. Next month, next year, later. But while they delay, life keeps moving. And eventually, they wake up realizing they spent years moving in circles. Because without direction, human beings drift toward comfort. And comfort slowly destroys ambition. Imagine someone saying, "I want a better life." But they have no clear vision, no target, no specific goal. So what happens? Their attention scatters everywhere. One day they feel inspired. The next day they procrastinate. They consume motivation endlessly, but never commit deeply to action. Now compare that to someone with a clear direction. A person who says, "I want to become financially independent," or "I want to become strong and healthy," or "I want to master this skill within 3 years." Now their daily actions have purpose. Waking up early means something. Studying means something. Sacrifice means something. Without clear goals, discipline feels pointless. And when effort feels pointless, the brain naturally escapes toward pleasure. The brain is constantly tempted by immediate rewards: entertainment, comfort, distraction, easy pleasure. Imagine 2 students. One studies 1 extra hour every night. The other spends that hour scrolling social media and watching videos. For weeks, the difference seems small, but after years, one person built knowledge, discipline, and opportunities. The other built distraction habits. This is how lives separate. Tiny repeated decisions. A person skips workouts repeatedly. Years later, their health declines. A person delays learning skills repeatedly. Years later, they remain stuck. A person keeps postponing meaningful goals. Years later, regret appears. People think procrastination only steals time, but it steals potential. Many people procrastinate because their goals feel overwhelming. A person wants to write a book, but thinking about hundreds of pages creates fear, so they never start. Someone wants to start a business but becomes overwhelmed by uncertainty, so they stay stuck, planning forever. This is why powerful people focus on small daily actions. 1 page written today, 1 business call today, 1 hour studying today, 1 workout today. Small actions reduce psychological resistance, and once movement begins, fear weakens. Momentum grows. The future starts changing. Right now, your future self is being shaped by your repeated behavior. Every distraction repeated becomes identity. Every disciplined action repeated becomes identity too. Most people think they can waste years and somehow recover later. But habits compound, and eventually, people become what they repeatedly practiced. One day, your future will arrive, and when it does, you will either face it with pride or regret. Most people spend their lives reacting to comfort, avoiding difficulty, drifting without direction. But the people who transform their lives become obsessed with vision. They know exactly what they are building. And because of that, they can endure discomfort that destroys weaker minds. Because when a person becomes deeply connected to a meaningful future, temporary pleasure loses its control. And that is when procrastination begins to die.
Most people think their future will improve automatically, that one day they'll suddenly become disciplined, focused, powerful, successful. But that day rarely comes because the human brain is constantly being programmed by repetition. Every thought repeated, every behavior repeated, every emotional reaction repeated, builds neurological pathways, and over time, those pathways become automatic. This is how identities are formed. Not through one dramatic decision, but through thousands of repeated behaviors. Every distraction strengthens distraction. Every excuse strengthens avoidance. Every act of discipline strengthens control. You are conditioning yourself every single day. The question is, what are you becoming? Imagine 2 people after work every night. One spends time studying, training, building skills, planning their future. The other escapes into endless entertainment, scrolling, videos, distraction. For weeks, the difference looks invisible, but the brain is recording everything. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition. The disciplined person is training focus, self-control, tolerance for discomforts. The distracted person is training impulsiveness, avoidance, mental weakness. Months later, their identities begin separating. One becomes sharper, more confident, more disciplined. The other becomes restless, reactive, unable to focus deeply. Because what you repeatedly practice, your brain begins accepting as normal, and eventually, normal becomes identity. Most people appear disciplined only when life feels easy. But stress reveals conditioning. The moment pressure appears, old programs reactivate. Fatigue, fear, failure, uncertainty, and suddenly the brain craves familiar relief. Comforts, escape, distraction. Imagine someone building a powerful routine. Waking up early, working consistently, staying focused. Then stress enters their life. Instead of protecting the routine, they return to old habits. Late night scrolling, avoidance, procrastination. Why? Because the nervous system always tries returning to familiar emotional states, even destructive ones. This is why old habits feel powerful. They are deeply conditioned survival patterns. Most people underestimate how dangerous repeated small behaviors become. Every time you procrastinate, you strengthen the pathway of avoidance. Every time you obey distraction, you strengthen impulsiveness. But every time you act despite resistance, you build a different mind, a stronger mind, a more disciplined identity. This is why self-awareness matters. Powerful people constantly observe themselves. They notice when focus weakens, when excuses increase, when distractions begin taking control again, because collapse starts quietly, one compromise at a time. And if destructive patterns are not interrupted early, the brain begins automating them again. People can endure enormous discomforts when connected to a meaningful future. Purpose changes the brain. A person obsessed with building a better life sees distraction differently. They see it as thefts. Theft of time, theft of energy, theft of potential. And because of that, they become protective of their attention, protective of their habits, protective of their identity, because they understand something most people never realize. The future is built through repeated behavior. Right now, you are wiring your future into your nervous system. Every repeated action is shaping your identity. Most people drift unconsciously, repeating destructive habits for years, until weakness becomes personality. But disciplined people understand something different. The brain can be trained, conditioned, rewired, and the person you become tomorrow depends on what you repeatedly reinforce today. So ask yourself carefully, if you continue repeating your current habits for the next 5 years, what kind of mind will you create? Because eventually your repeated behaviors become the person staring back at you in the
Imagine
mirror.
meeting yourself 10 years from now. Not the version you hope to become, the version your current habits are creating. That future version of you stands silently in front of you, exhausted or powerful, disciplined or broken, focused or full of regret. And then they ask you one question: why did you keep wasting the time we needed? Because right now, your future is being built through repetition. Every distraction repeated, every excuse repeated, every moment you choose comfort over growth. Your brain is recording all of it, strengthening pathways, automating behaviors, turning temporary habits into permanent identity. Most people think self-destruction looks dramatic, but usually it looks ordinary. A few wasted hours, one more delay, one more night saying, "I'll start tomorrow," until years disappear. And one day, they realize they trained themselves into becoming someone they never wanted to be. Imagine two people starting from the exact same place, same intelligence, same opportunities, same potential. But every night, their behaviors differ. One person studies after work, exercises, builds skills, protects focus, faces discomfort voluntarily. The other escapes, scrolling endlessly, consuming entertainment, avoiding difficult tasks, choosing immediate relief over long-term growth. At first, the difference is invisible, but repetition compounds. Month after month, year after year, their nervous systems begin changing. One brain becomes trained for discipline, the other becomes conditioned for distraction. One person develops self-respect, confidence, mental endurance. The other becomes reactive, impulsive, unable to tolerate discomfort without escape. This is how futures are created, quietly, through repeated behavior. Because every repeated action sends instructions to the brain. This is who we are. And eventually, the brain believes it. Most people believe they control their behavior consciously, but often, their conditioning controls them first. The moment discomfort appears, their programming activates. Stress, escape, boredom, distraction, difficulty, avoidance. Imagine someone sitting down to work on something important. Within minutes, resistance appears, doubt, mental fatigue, uncertainty. And instantly, their hand reaches for the phone automatically, not because they chose it consciously, But because the brain learned, distraction removes discomfort. Every time this cycle repeats, the conditioning grows stronger. The mind becomes trained to flee difficulty automatically, and eventually, deep focus feels painful. Stillness feels unbearable. Discipline feels unnatural. Because the nervous system has been programmed for stimulation and escape. People think regret arrives suddenly, but regret is usually accumulated slowly, one avoided opportunity at a time. A person dreams of building something meaningful, but delays starting for years. A person wants to transform their body, but keeps postponing discipline until later. A person wants freedom, but spends every night escaping reality instead of building skills. And slowly, their future begins collapsing invisibly, because time keeps moving whether action happens or not. Opportunities disappear, energy fades, potential weakens through neglect. And the most painful part, deep down, people know when they abandoned themselves. They know when fear controlled them, when comfort controlled them, when distractions stole years they can never recover. The people who transform their lives understand something most people never learn. Discipline is not punishment. It is neurological training. Every time they act despite discomfort, they rewire themselves. Every time they resist distraction, they strengthen control. Every time they follow through, they build evidence for a new identity. Eventually, discipline stops feeling forced, because repetition changes the brain. The behavior becomes automatic. And that is when a person becomes dangerous, when focus becomes natural, when discipline becomes identity, when excuses stop controlling behavior. Right now, a future version of you is being created. Not someday, not eventually, right now. Through your habits, through your routines, through the actions you repeat when nobody is watching. Most people never realize they are programming themselves in real time. Every distraction rehearsed becomes easier to repeat. Every excuse strengthens weakness. Every act of avoidance teaches the brain, this is who we are. And eventually, the conditioning becomes so deep, people mistake their programming for personality. They call it laziness, bad luck, lack of motivation. Without realizing, they train themselves into becoming trapped. But powerful people interrupt the cycle before it hardens into identity. They become ruthless about what they allow into their mind, ruthless about what they repeat, because they understand something terrifying. Your future is not waiting for you. It is being built by you.